Welcome to Winder Works, the official podcast of the City of Winder. Join us today as we go behind the scenes to learn from the people, projects, and progress shaping our community. Now, let's get ready to dive into the initiatives that make Winder a great place to live, work, and visit. All right, well, welcome back to the podcast. I'm Jonathan Lynn, City Administrator for the City of Winder, and today we have the privilege of highlighting one of the places that truly helps define our recreation community and quality of life in Winder. You know, when people think about Winder, they think about growth and downtown and people that have lived here for a long time. But now they're starting to think about one of our great resources, the Chimneys Golf Course. And we're proud today to have Miss Elizabeth Clarkson, our General Manager of the Chimneys Golf Course, with us. Elizabeth oversees the day-to-day operations, long-term planning, and customer experience at our golf course. So welcome, Elizabeth. How are you?
I'm doing great, thanks. Thank you for having me.
Well, and this is unique. We've heard about technology and police and fire, but today, we get to hear about something fun. Not that their jobs are not fun or exciting, but we really get to hear about something today that I think people will really want to hear about where we've come from and where we're going. So as we get started, can you just tell us a little bit about Elizabeth and, how you got into your role, where you came from, and why it's your passion?
Yeah, sure. So I've been in the industry now for over 20 years. I spent 18 years at Chateau-Lawn. That's kind of where I grew up in golf. I didn't necessarily know that I wanted to be a golf professional from the get-go. My degree from the University of Georgia is in advertising. So I kind of thought,
went the other way on that one a little bit.
I was like, do I really want to work in a city, big office building, or do I like my green space? So I was working in golf as a beverage cart attendant. And just kind of fell in love with being around that environment. And I started working in the golf shop. And my director of golf at the time said, you should really consider the PGA program and becoming a PGA member. And the more I looked into it, the more I started, diving into that and decided to pursue it. And here I am. So I worked at Chateau-Lawn for many years. And decided it was time to kind of kick myself out of the nest over there. I had gone through an ownership change, and one of my good friends, who's actually the executive director of the Georgia PGA, suggested that, there was a position open here. They were looking for somebody just to kind of come in and monitor things at the Chimneys, we'll say. And it turned into something much longer than I anticipated, and I'm still here, and I'm so grateful for that.
So how long have you been in your role here with Winder as the general manager?
So just over 4.5 years, be 5 years in May.
So for people that don't know, the Chimneys does have a pretty interesting story. Can you share a little bit about, where it came from to when you started to kind of, what you've seen happen in those 4.5 years? Sure.
So the course opened in 2002. And the land has always been owned by the City of Winder. I think that's something that a lot of people don't know. It's a land application system, so we are a spray field, in essence, for effluent water from the city. We have the good fortune of having an unlimited water supply to an extent.
Please don't eat the grass, people. We can explain what a spray field is.
Don't play in the sprinklers.
Offline. Yeah.
But so the course existed as a way of using that land as something recreational for the community. It was owned by a different business called Eagle Greens. Back in the day, they had a handful of courses in the area. And eventually that company folded and the city took it over. And that was around 2014.
Okay. So
when that happened.
Just over 10 years ago.
Yep. Okay. And it ran as it was for many years. And unfortunately, it wasn't as successful as I think the city was hoping. When I came in 2021, the course unfortunately was losing on average about $250,000 a year in revenue.
Wow. Okay.
And so the city was having to keep it afloat out of the general fund, which as a municipal golf course, that should never happen. It should at minimum pay for itself. So I was tasked simply with make it pay for itself. And I said, well, I think we should aim a little higher than that.
That's a base. That's the floor. Let's get to the ceiling.
I'm glad to know where my base is, but I think we can do better than that. And that first year, the course was, and that I only had 2 months of that fiscal year. It ended at just shy of $600,000 in revenue. And this year, this is after our greens renovation and a lot of edits to the property. My goal is to hit $2.75 million in revenue.
So I'm not a math major, but if my math is mathing, that's over a 400% increase in revenue and about 100% a year,
Correct.
essentially.
Yeah, and we're currently on the books over $300,000 already in profit, and we're only 7 months into this fiscal year. So
that's just amazing. And I know I came to Winder from a community, a city that had a golf course as well, and it kind of faced those same struggles that you were talking about when you came to Winder, but it was never to the point of getting to where we are. And I hope they do at some point. I hope they do listen to this and kind of hear what can happen when you do have a golf course like that. So being that, you kind of inherited, the Chimneys at a point where it was probably almost at a stage critical type point where we've got to figure out what we're going to do. What elements of what was already there were you able to incorporate into what people see today?
So I think the biggest change, and I'll say that some of it was a lot of low-hanging fruit. There were some obvious things that I thought that should be changed right away. The biggest change that I made as far as the revenue structure is what's called dynamic pricing. A lot of our regular customers understand what that is because it basically means that we don't have set rates, that it changes with the market value of the course for the day. And it's down to even the day part. So
that's almost, sorry to interrupt, that's almost like the hot lanes on the interstate. When there's peak traffic, your rates are a little higher than midnight when there's nobody on the road.
Yeah, we're not the only government entity that has figured that.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, it really started with the travel and hospitality industry. How many times have you taken the same flight and it's been the same amount of money? How many times? Yeah. How many times have you stayed in a hotel room that costs the same every time? It never does. And so the golf industry was a little bit slow to that. There's certainly a lot of courses, even in the north, that still have static pricing, or even in Georgia, there still are some. And it's not necessarily maybe right for every course, but I would say that it's one of the most important things that a public facility can do is offer dynamic pricing because it maximizes your day. Okay. It's an expiring product, your tee sheet. You can't get that day back once it's gone. So
correct. That is 100% accurate.
You either fill the tee sheet or you don't. And some of that is rate integrity. You don't want to just undercut what you're offering out there. And when I got to the Chimneys, I was very fortunate to have inherited Tom Tebow, our head superintendent. The product was there. The course was good. It was in good shape. It just wasn't being, I guess, valued as it should be. We've made some edits to the course itself that I think have been really positive as well. But I don't want to make this sound like all we're doing is raising rates. That's not the goal. We offer still a discount program for our local residents and community or anybody that wants to join it. It's open to anybody in the pass holder program. So if you love the Chimneys and want to play there all the time, we offer our annual pass. And that's your way of buying into set rates. But everybody else, and you'd be shocked at the number of golfers that drive in from Alpharetta, Marietta, Johns Creek. There's less and less public golf available in the city. So especially on the weekends, we get a huge crowd that will travel in 45 minutes to an hour just to get to the Chimneys.
Oh, wow.
And so capitalizing on that was important. We don't have a volume problem. We have plenty of golfers. Every once in a while I'll get a phone call from maybe a third-party customer or something that is trying to sell their services to us to fill in the blanks on our tee sheet. And I just politely say, well, we don't have a volume problem.
Right. We have an availability problem.
Exactly.
And that's a good thing.
We try to honestly limit to 40,000 rounds or less because not only is it going to keep your course in better condition, it's going to help pace of play. Customers are happier because they're going to play faster. Yeah. There's so many reasons why you want to have that nice, bread and butter spot on the number of rounds you do. So our goal isn't to pack out the course, and it's not to necessarily charge an arm and a leg either. But if you want to play at 9 a.m. on a Saturday, you might.
You're going to pay more than 9 a.m. on a Wednesday.
Exactly. Yeah.
So some people, that kind of transitions to a conversation that I think you and I had a while back. So you told me that, during that week that everybody knows there's a big golf tournament that happens every year in Georgia, right down the road in Augusta. Can you kind of explain how that impacts us, when we're 2 hours from Augusta and what we're able to do and what you've been able to accomplish at the golf course during that time?
Yeah, I mean, there's certain times of the year where your golf course is going to be busy, and it's important to take advantage of those time periods. And it's another thing that having that dynamic pricing structure allows you to do. The Masters Week is certainly the hottest week, in golf. It's when everybody on the planet starts thinking about golf for the season, So for us being, fortunately, only a couple hours from Augusta, it makes a huge difference. We have a large number of customers that come through specifically for Masters. We start fielding phone calls months in advance. Is your tee sheet already open? Can we go ahead and book our times? We even get international guests that want to book tee times over that week.
Okay.
And a lot of it is because they stay in Athens. Our location is one of the greatest assets that we have. The fact that we're about 25 minutes from Athens, about 25 minutes from downtown Lawrenceville and that area, we're hubbed in such a great location and only a mile off of 316.
And there's not, for those listening that may or may not think about it, there's not a lot of golf courses up that 316 corridor that people can easily get to. I know Gainesville has a municipal course, and you have Chateau Elan, and then a couple scattered. But I think ours would probably be one of the more convenient locations. Is that
correct?
Right?
Yeah, that's absolutely true. And so many of the former public courses that were in the area are starting to turn private, and it's something that we'll never do.
Good. I do not support that message, so I'm with you. So when that kind of transitions, a lot of people, they still have that old mentality that golf is a very exclusive game, and it I know it's as with anything, whether your kid's a cheerleader or you do pageants or you collect sports cards, the price is what you want it to be. How have we been able to serve those non-golfers or people that, they may not be experts, they're not Tiger Woods, but they do see the Masters and they're like, oh man, I'm going to go play this week. How do we help them out?
Yeah, absolutely. One thing that I'm always going to keep in mind is the fact that we are a municipal golf course. We're here for the community. And I really hold that dearly because it's important for me to see growth of the game and to develop the next generation of golfers. And that's exactly what the Chimneys should function as a place where people can come and learn and grow the game. The one aspect of the business that I have not edited at all is the price of range balls. A small bucket's $6, a large bucket is $8, and it's good value there. So learning hitting range balls is very inexpensive. It's free to chip and putt. Anybody can come and chip and putt and work on your short game, which, as everybody knows,
most people need to do that more,
is the most important
myself,
part of your game.
Yes.
Exactly. But we host a lot of clinics. We do instruction now at the Chimneys. We have a number of instructors on staff. And my favorite is PGA Junior League.
I was about to ask you if you could tell everybody about your passion project.
Yep. So as a proud PGA member, in my opinion, there is no greater way to introduce your juniors to golf than PGA Junior League. So the way it functions is as a team environment. So juniors ages 4 to 13 is the age group that we currently offer at the Chimneys. We'd love to expand upon that once we have more ability to do so. But ages 4 to 13, our largest program was last spring. We had 19 kids. We're about to open up registration for this spring. But they learn as a team. We do an initial week on the driving range where we kind of assess the players. And then after that, we are straight onto the golf course. And we play typically 6 holes at a time, and they do little 3-on-3 scrambles. So it's a great way for them to actually learn golf on a golf course. There's so many kids that are out there and they'll become range rats, where they learn how to hit.
Go to Top Golf every weekend.
Exactly.
And that doesn't reflect.
Yeah. I mean, Top Golf has its purpose as well. And I think it's wonderful introducing people into the game, that maybe would never try it.
Yeah.
But PGA Junior League allows them to learn on a golf course. And so that's one of the best ways that we, I think, as a program can help the community to introduce their kids.
Okay.
Youth on Course is another one. We are a participant with Youth on Course.
Okay. Now, can you explain that one a little bit more?
Yep.
That one's new to me too.
Yep. So that is a national program, and that one is run through the Georgia State Golf Association. But for an annual fee I don't remember what it is going to be for this year, but it's not that expensive. It's under $100.
Okay.
For an annual fee, I think it's well under $100. You can play a number of golf courses in the area for only $5. And the greens fee is subsidized from the GSGA. So we log the round. GSGA sends us a check at the end of the month for X number of rounds that we've logged. And so that way the course isn't out, all the greens fee revenue that they would have made maybe off of a full round. The junior gets a $5 18-hole round. Yes, it's a walking.
But okay, there you go. So they are having to get some exercise and be active.
I think that's one of the benefits of golf too, is that health and wellness factor that is important. But if they want a golf cart, if they're over the age of 16, they can purchase a golf cart.
Okay.
For $15. So it's a $20, $5 greens fee, $15 cart. But if you, as I did as a junior golfer, if you want to walk the course, it's $5.
Okay. And that's not bad. I mean, I will tell people listening, and you probably have some stories. We do not have a flat golf course. If you
it's
intend
not
to do
that bad.
Yeah.
There's a couple places where you're going to hike a bit, but for the most part, the biggest factor is green to tee. It's not that much of a distance, because there's certainly some courses where you can feel like you're walking a quarter mile to get to the next tee box.
The best part about having an Apple Watch is it tells you how many steps you take, but then it really embarrasses you when you look at it after you play a round of golf.
Yeah. We also offer a walking discount at the Chimneys. I don't think a lot of people know that either.
Okay, I did not.
So,
that is good to know.
Yeah. So if you want to,
so there's something
really
for everybody in terms of your round. Yeah, you can be as inactive or as active as you choose.
That's
to be.
right. Yeah.
Okay. Now, something just while we're still on the subject, a lot of people don't realize the impact that municipal golf courses have on local schools. Can you kind of share, how we partner or how schools partner with us because we are a municipal course?
Yeah, absolutely. So when I got to the Chimneys, we did already host a number of high schools in the area for their teams. We were the home course for Winnebago High School and the home course for Bethlehem Christian Academy. What I tell every coach that approaches me, and that is still true today, we are the home courses for those two schools. But what I tell every coach that approaches us is that if we have an open afternoon, by all means, we're going to let you and your team go out onto the course. We don't allow them to use the driving range as much because kids hit a lot of golf balls and that can tear up a range pretty quickly. But if they want to go out and walk 9 holes with their team, as long as it doesn't displace business, we allow them to do that. And so we've hosted Appalachia, Archer, Decula, BASA, Bear Arts and Science Academy. We've done quite a few middle school leagues. We actually are the home for the middle school golf league. It's run out of South Gwinnett. Okay. But we are doing everything we can to encourage the next generation of golfers.
And that's amazing. And you guys do a fabulous job of that. It is comical. If somebody ever sees it, you could see a group of 10 kids walking, and then you've always got the parents behind them in a golf cart. The kids are walking and the parents are right there in a golf cart. Just like you're playing baseball or softball or soccer, your parents are never too far away to provide words of encouragement. I'll just leave it there.
Yeah.
So now let's shift it a little bit. Let's talk a little bit more about you and your role. A lot of people they picture golf courses as a very calm, quiet, serene kind of place because you walk into a clubhouse and it's usually pretty silent, other than golf or sports on the TV. Walk us through a day in the life of a general manager of a golf course.
Sure. So I think you kind of hit the nail on the head at the beginning of the episode when you're like, "Hey, we're going to talk about the fun stuff today in the golf course." I try to encourage that with my team. We're here for golf. It's not meant to be serious business, and it's not just our staff that hopefully understands that and gets that vibe. It's our customers too. We have a number of customers that might come in and we'll say maybe the senior population that is very, very serious about their game, and they're here for either their money match or whatever they've got going on, or they've got aches and pains and ailments, right? And so the golf course is sometimes the place where people come to kind of, they find friendships. They create that camaraderie at the course and with the staff. And I just remind my team constantly that we're here for fun. It's for recreation and good thing. And the customers too. I'm like, guys, you're here to play golf. You could be either sitting in your office and
a bad day on the golf course is better than a good day in the office.
That's right. Unless you work at a golf course.
There you go.
But,
so what's the hardest call or decision you've had to make as GM here in Winder?
Oh, I mean, there's always some interesting situations that'll pop up, whether it's regarding a guest that maybe has had a handful too many on the course, or I have to say that because of the positioning of the course, we're not in a neighborhood. We don't have homes directly on the course. We're kind of protected from what I would typically consider a lot of the crazy to be. I used to deal with a lot of crazy when you'd have personal golf carts that would come.
Like they go out and play a couple holes in the afternoon when they get home.
Oh, yeah. There's trespassing. You've got golf carts that might end up in ditches or lakes. There's all. It's never short of stories when it comes to a golf professional's career. There's always fun things that you deal with, but probably the only really crazy things that we deal with at the Chimneys is every once in a while we'll have somebody that maybe has had one too many, and
and as a responsible person, I'm sure you all handle that as the situations come. And,
that's right. Yeah.
And address it. Now, hopefully there's nothing, but is there anything that keeps you up at night that you're like, man, if we don't take care of this, we're going to be in a situation we don't want to be in, or something that could be coming, a year down the road that you already, keeps you up at night, and you start thinking about it and you go down your own rabbit hole?
I think the biggest thing is that we've already tackled, and that was the greens. I think when I first arrived, that was the biggest stressor for me. It was like those greens, because we had bent grass greens, just to kind of clarify on that. Our bent grass greens were over 20 years old. And when you get to that age, and especially in our transition zone, our regional location, just simply geographically, it's hard to keep those greens alive. And we tackled that project a year and a half ago when we transitioned the bent grass greens to what is called Sunday Bermuda, is the variety that we have. But it's more sustainable. Tom doesn't have to sweat about it at night. I mean, there'd be some mornings when he'd be up, and he still does this because he's the superintendent and that's what they do. But he'll be out at 4 a.m. with a flashlight checking greens just to make sure, that they're doing okay. But the fact that we've tackled that problem, we can kind of sleep a little bit better at night.
Okay. No, and you touched on something, and that was kind of, that process was ending when I came on board. You guys redid all the greens at the same time. You all made the decision. It was a tough decision. We're going to close for I think it was the summer, and we're going to do all 18 greens at once, and we're going to fix this. Can you kind of walk everyone through that, and then how you still were able to turn a profit for that fiscal year, even though you were closed for a couple months?
Yeah. So we tackled a lot of the transition items, especially irrigation in advance. So that's one of the biggest things with the greens transition that a lot of people don't know about, is that you have to make sure that the irrigation that you're using, in other words, like the sprinkler heads and how that is aimed at your greens, what's the stability of that. And it's also tree removal. Bermuda needs a lot of sunshine throughout the entire day. And if you've got shady patches over your greens, then they're going to be harder to keep alive. So we did a lot of that before we, kind of in prep of the greens transition. We chose to do all 18 greens at once, primarily because you want to have uniformity in your product. If you do half and half 1 year, half the next year, you can stay open, but they may not match. And then you've got an even bigger problem. You're getting two different plants, in essence. We have all the sprigs that were put down came to us at the same time. If you do it in 2 separate years, you're literally getting a different product. So you can hope for the same, and that you can kind of, with certain procedures, get them to match, but that's a big risk. So especially because summer months traditionally are not as busy as your peak season, spring and fall, we took the risk of going ahead and just closing. Thankfully, the grow-in was fantastic. It only took about 10 weeks before we were able to reopen for Labor Day weekend that year. And it was incredible to watch the process and how fast those greens took place. So we're very happy with the product that we chose.
So this took place in July and August, for the most part, during the hottest and driest months of the year.
Correct.
How did you guys make sure that it got plenty of water, that you were kind of monitoring that, when Mother Nature doesn't really cooperate with what you're trying to do?
Yeah. Again, I go back to that really fortunate thing in that we have the unlimited water supply with our effluent water from the
that's
city.
where that was going. Yeah.
Yeah. It was one of the reasons why we chose the variety of grass that we did, is that it is more sustainable for we'll say the interesting chemistry of our water. But the fact that we're able to, Tom can run the sprinklers from his phone. He can, do a lot with that to make sure that, or his radios, but, we're able to have that water constantly going if we need it. So,
well, and that's a great thing. And I will digress a little bit because we've kind of referenced it a few times. The golf course is a spray field, and for what people may not know, when you treat wastewater, stuff that you flush, the water that you're treating it with has to go somewhere. It's typically fairly clean. It goes through a process, but you can't put it back in the system. So the ideal location, several communities have that, where your golf course is your spray field, and that does also allow you some environmental protections where you're reducing permits. So I think that not many people or places are encouraged to use as much water as you can, but you guys have that benefit. So
I think it's important for people to know that it's it's gray water. It's not straight from what you flush.
Correct. It has
treated
been filtered several times.
Yeah, exactly.
Still don't drink it or eat the grass, but you're not going to get infected with anything just by the water being.
But you can think of the golf course as a giant natural filter. All that water is going to go somewhere and eventually end up in your streams and lakes and ponds and things like that in your community. Thankfully, the golf course and the ground is a big, massive filter for that water before it reaches any lakes and ponds.
And we have 18 holes of that we get to take advantage of. a lot of wood. So you were here, or I guess timing wise, you came in kind of maybe on the downward slope of the pandemic. Mm-hmm. Now, how did you see that affecting people playing golf? And because I've heard and I've seen that it became really popular because it was a way for people to get outside, and you're obviously social distanced at that point, but it's never gone back to pre-COVID levels, and it's harder and harder to get those tee times.
Yeah, it's one of the things that as an industry, we're all still kind of monitoring. And we call it the COVID effect for golf, because it's absolutely the truth. Golf boomed due to COVID. It was one of the safest sports you could play or deem to be safe sports. And we're still, I don't want to say we're still riding that wave, because if we're doing our job as an industry, the PGA of America is focusing on how to retain the golfers we've added. And I would say that that's one of the things that the industry failed to do during the Tiger boom. We had a huge influx of golfers and at that time, and they tried it out, which is great, but we didn't hang on to them like we could have. And so, in any industry will face this kind of thing, but right now the COVID boom is still riding strong for the golf industry. Courses are packed, and that's one of the reasons why a lot of public facilities seem to be turning private, is because they think that they can actually make that happen right now. Personally, I disagree with that sort of business model and mentality. I'm a huge proponent of public golf. I believe in public golf. Can ask any of my industry friends that they will back me up on that. That's how I feel about it. I think golf is for everybody, and that's one of the things I love about it, is that it's not the elitist sport of the past. Golf is something that is and can be open to every age, every demographic, and should be. And I think the industry is doing a lot better job of that now.
So now we get to a good question. This is probably one of my, I enjoy these parts of the podcast as much as anything. So you've seen it all. I'm sure you've seen holes in ones. I'm sure you've seen balls bounce off trees and go behind the person, from people probably falling down, swinging too hard. What is the funniest moment that you can remember in your career? It doesn't necessarily have to be in Winder, and if you've listened to the podcast, we've heard muskrats and crack houses and
right.
snakes and alligators. So what is Elizabeth's story? How can you top those?
Oh, I've got a couple. First, I'll start with a fun one. I wouldn't say it's funny, but it's my favorite.
As long as nobody died, it can still be funny.
Nobody died, but it's my favorite golf moment, and that was playing what I called my perfect foursome. It was me, my husband, and my parents.
Oh, nice.
And it was my dad's 69th birthday, and Dad had never had a hole-in-one before. And he got his first ever hole-in-one, but it wasn't just a hole-in-one. It was a driver on a par 4 Albatross on his birthday with the perfect foursome.
Speaking of Tiger Woods, is Tiger Woods your dad? Wow.
So that was by far my favorite, personal golf moment. I would say I've got probably 100 photos on my phone of funny golf moments, especially, cart accidents and things like that. One of the more shocking moments I had, other previous facility will say, I had, a call from another manager, and they were like, we have a car in the lake over on number 9. I'm like, a cart? They're like, no, a car. And I'm like, why is there a car?
With no T on the end of it.
No T on the end.
Okay.
Yeah, we have a car in the lake. So I get in a golf cart and drive over to the area, and there's police in the pond. And you can see where this car drove through a fence and and you can't see the car, but they've told me it's in the lake, and the police are waiting out in the pond, and they've got this big pulley system going. And next thing you know, this car comes backing out of the pond.
Out.
Yeah. And this cop is riding the top of the hood as he's coming out of the lake. And long story short, it was somebody evading the police, we'll say, for a variety of reasons, and decided to ditch their car in the first nearby water they found. And
where did the person go?
They went on foot as fast as they could.
Okay.
And obviously got caught.
Oh, yes. It doesn't take long these days. Yeah.
But yeah, every golf pro has a variety of stories like that.
I'm sure. I'm sure I'm somebody's story somewhere about something that happened on a golf course. That's pretty good. You guys have probably dealt with, maybe not so much in Winder, but at Chateau Elan, any kind of celebrity name drops or somebody that you saw come play golf, and you're like, man, they play golf too, just like me.
Yeah, I had a couple of cool experiences at Chateau Elan because we would get some interesting clientele coming through. I was able to give Roddy White a handful of lessons. That was pretty fun.
I've heard he's pretty tall.
He's very tall and extremely athletic.
Yeah.
He would have some not so good shots, and then he would just stripe one. And
no, was he Charles Barkley, or was he better than that?
Oh,
sorry, Charles, if you're actually listening to the podcast.
He's improved a lot, but no, Roddy had much more, we'll say, what looked like natural athletic ability. So
fair enough.
And then we did an episode at Chateau Elan for Ozark. If you ever watched that show on Netflix,
I have watched that show. Yes.
So they filmed in a few different places on property, and I got to give golf lessons to a couple of the primary actors. So
nice. Okay.
Dell, who was the main bad guy, and this early episodes, and then there was I think it was a brother in the show or something, big tall guy that ends up getting killed off.
A lot of people in that show got killed off.
That's true.
I think a lot of people got killed off in that show. It was pretty dark. But yeah, I had heard that it was filmed up around Lake Lanier, so that does make sense. It wasn't actually filmed in the Ozarks.
Yeah, exactly.
So we touched on it a little bit earlier. Why being we know location matters, but how is Winder benefited from the golf course? We know the golf course has benefited from being in Winder because of where Winder's located, but how has Winder benefited from the golf course?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that I always treat it as like a place where people can go for not just physical health, but mental clarity and mental health. And I think that we can continue to expand upon that. We had to tackle what needed to be tackled first.
Okay.
And we have a laundry list of ideas in place that, it's about prioritizing, first of all, ROI. We don't want to make the mistake in the past where we're relying on the general fund or anything like that to hold up the course. So we want to make sure that it's profitable at all times. So it's one thing at a time to make sure that we have that in place. But I would like to see it turn into more and more of a community center. There's a great project. A good friend of mine runs a property down in West Palm called The Park.
Okay.
And it's a collaboration between that city, West Palm, and a variety of very wealthy business owners. But
yeah, I hear there's some. I hear that maybe even the president has a house down there that shows up on the news from time to time.
That area is not shy of dollars, but his property is a bit of an inspiration for what I would like to continue doing at the Chimneys and possibly do in the future, where he has a variety of community programs where he takes kids and he has to lack of better terms, it's like a big bar where in the evening it turns into like a big playground for kids.
Oh, nice.
The putting green is huge, and the parents come watch sports, have a good time, and the kids just putt and chip and have a good time, while their parents are doing their thing.
And I've seen that in places. I mean, and the kids love it. They have the putters out there and golf balls. It's almost like a mini golf kind of environment, but you have the adult side of that
exactly.
as well. Yeah.
And golf entertainment is huge as well. Indoor simulators are a big part of the industry now. Like I said, there's a lot of ideas in the pipeline, but we have to prioritize and make sure things are paid for and do it the right way. And
I think that's absolutely valid. So we'll just kind of skip ahead. I had this down for a later question. 10 years down the road, what does the Chimneys look like to you?
Yeah, I would love to. I don't want to overpromise, but I think I would love to expand upon what we have there already as far as facilities. Mm-hmm. The one thing that we haven't really touched is we did some Band-Aid fixes to what I'll call a clubhouse, but it's really like a nice decorative shed,
It's very nice on the inside.
That's right.
Yes.
Yeah. And same thing with the pavilion. We did some paint, touch up, some light fixtures to make our retail pop. But we haven't really done anything for facilities, and it's probably the only thing that we get commented on occasion, that we don't have a restaurant or nicer. We don't have a locker room really for anybody. So our limitations are what they are, but in the future, I'm hoping that we can maybe correct some of that. I don't have any grand plans of turning it into anything fancy. I think that's important for people to know too. I don't want it to look like a private club or any sort of like fancy facility. That's not necessary. But I think that we can do better than what we have and find new revenue sources and find ways of adding more options for an introduction into golf, such as the simulators and golf entertainment.
Okay. So, with everything that we do as a city, with everything that the public does in their day-to-day life, and they have all this access to information quickly, how has technology changed and impacted what you all do year over year?
Yeah, I mean, my favorite one is our dynamic pricing tool. I don't have to make the manual changes to our rate structure. We use a tool that does it for us. So I input the parameters and I break it down by day part. So it's not just, on a Saturday, our rates are going to be higher. It's by the hour. So if we are 60% full, as an example, the rate might pop X percentage. Or if we are still sitting wide open, then that rate's going to stay the same. So what I always tell people, because they're always looking for a discounted golf, is just book early, because the rate is always going to be the lowest the earlier you book year round. And we offer a 30-day booking window, which is pretty rare in comparison for a lot of public places.
2 weeks now. Yeah.
Exactly. Okay. Yeah. So we utilize technology in a variety of ways. We've got our new range machine that can dispense range balls for us. We have obviously our website and hopefully our golf entertainment options in the future. Tom uses technology on the maintenance side, and I'm hoping to really expand upon that. I'm about to go down to the PGA show and do some shopping for hopefully some things that can make us more efficient on the agronomy side. Tom's gonna do the same thing at the Golf Course Superintendent Association meeting as well. So
nice.
It's important.
So with that, this is just a personal question that I've always been curious about. I can go out to the golf course, pull up an app, and it tells me exactly where I am, where the hole is. that app on the surface has no affiliation with Winder or the Chimneys. How do we get information to places like that so that, if you're out there, your watch can tell you how far you are, what hole you're on, or where the flag is?
Yeah. Thankfully, a lot of that happens on its own. We don't have to do anything with that because for those products to sell their services and to, I guess, have any sort of reputation that's positive, they have to be accurate. So they either hire people to go out on the courses and make sure that, the layouts look the way that they are.
Okay.
A lot of it is run through like the Georgia State Golf Association that will come out and do course ratings for us. So we do invite them out every other year roughly to make sure that our slope ratings are appropriate for all of our tee boxes and any edits we make to the course. But any of that technology that you find as far as like GPS units, apps on your phone, things like that, those are primarily handled by those companies.
Okay. And that kind of, squirrel. I have another question. Yeah. You and I have talked about it, and it's something that I think the public would probably find very interesting. You always hear, why don't you have more tournaments? Why, we have such a nice golf course. Why can't we get an organized tournament here? Can you kind of explain what qualifies you to do that and how you may be working toward attracting those kinds of tournaments?
So when I first came to the Chimneys, we had little to no tournament play. And I don't have a good reason as to why that was the case, but that was the case. So we host a couple of what I call in-house tournaments, meaning we're the host of the event. But more and more, we are gaining tournament business in the form of charitable tournaments. And my favorite are the competitive events. We host a lot of junior tournaments. And then your state functions. So we hosted the Public Links Championship last year, which is a Georgia State Golf Association event, and really fortunate to host a qualifier for the U.S. Adaptive Open, which was really fun for us to be a part of. And we're going to do that again this year too, actually. We're going to be another qualifying site for the U.S. Adaptive Open. So,
and you and I talked before as well, to qualify for some of these, your course has to be longer. Mm-hmm. Which, you've got to add room to your course, which a lot of courses don't have the ability to do. How do you do that, and are we going to be able to do that?
Yeah, I mean, I would love for us to host things like the Amateur, the Georgia Open, any of the real major tournaments in the state. But unfortunately, our golf course is simply too short. When I arrived, we were at 6,384 from the tips. We are just over 6,400 in yards now. And there are only a few places on our golf course where we can really add length. And I think it's also important to note that we don't have any intention of making the golf course difficult. One of the best things about the Chimneys is that it's a very playable golf course. It's a friendly public facility, and it should be. But if we want to gain any of the really competitive high-end tournaments that can give a lot of eyeballs, we'll say, to the Chimneys in a positive way, we just are simply not long enough. So we added a new tee box to hole 7 last year, and we just opened up as of last Friday a new tee box on 18, which is gorgeous. Tom and his crew, I can't brag on them enough. We're fortunate to have all the natural rock around the Chimneys. I always kind of joke around in a funny but not so funny way. I'm like, if things ever really go south, we could become a rock quarry and stay afloat.
That's
because we have so much rock. But we're able to build these gorgeous pedestal tees with all of the huge boulders we have around property. And so he just opened up that new one on 18. There's a couple of other locations that we've kind of brainstormed ideas on, but one thing at a time.
Right. Yeah. And that's how you eat that elephant, is one bite at a time.
Exactly.
As we kind of wrap up, the last thing I have for you, and I love hearing conversations like this, is, you have a couple members of city council that were not, I would say, in support of us, doing anything more at the golf course or acquiring it when we did. But that conversation has now shifted. You have council members, elected officials and they'll tell you flat out, hey, I was not in support of this and I was happy to be wrong. How are you able to change their mind by what you've done?
I think it's important that we just stay positive and admit that they weren't necessarily wrong in how they felt about that. The course wasn't making money. And so I can understand how they were upset about either how it was operated in the past or the fact that the general fund was having to pay to keep it afloat. So now that it isn't having to do that in a very drastically positive way, it's fairly easy to keep that sort of relationship with council. But I don't take it for granted or take it lightly. It's important that we show that sort of profit so that we can hang on to it and keep it as a community centerpiece that we can continue to build and develop. Like I've stated a few times during this, so many public golf courses are turning private. And if the course were to have sold, I can almost guarantee you that whoever would have bought it would have tried to turn it into a private club.
It's got the location for that. I mean,
Yeah.
it's got its own one road in, one road out.
Exactly. So I think it is, I don't want to say that it's a negative thing that we aim at a significant profit, but we do. But it's also important because that's how we get to keep it. Because otherwise, council would want to sell it, and rightfully so.
Right.
Nobody wants to hang on to a losing entity. Yeah. So.
Well, and that's impressive, and I hope the public really kind of understands what you just said. Is you don't want it supported from the general fund, and just sidebar a way to brag on you all as well. There is no debt owed to the general fund from the golf course anymore. So what that means is over the last, I would say 4.5 years, the golf course has managed to reimburse the general fund for any expenses that were subsidized from taxpayers for that. So it's no longer being subsidized by property tax. The golf course operates as its own entity where they spend what they make, and it's all based on user fees, which are the greens fees, and the rounds, and that's something that's very sought after among municipal courses. So that's very well done. So as we start wrapping up, this is gonna be the hardest question you get all day. What legacy do you want to leave as GM when at whatever point you decide that it's no longer something you can do and you want to turn it over to somebody else? What legacy do you want to leave?
I think that coming to the Chimneys has been one of the most rewarding things I've done in my career because it's been such a fun project for me. It's been so rewarding to see it turn into something so positive for Winder. And I want that to continue. I've been hopefully instilled in that with our team that we have there. I want to give kudos to my staff because we have the best people at the Chimneys. And I think that even if I were not to be there, that they would want to keep that going in the same way that we've established it as it is now. So I'm not exactly sure what all the future, has in store.
None of us are. That's true. Yeah.
But I think we've kind of given the blueprint on how to make it successful and keep it successful. And so I have good faith that will continue, in the future. So.
All right. And as a way we typically, like to end these conversations is there anything that we haven't touched on that you want to leave the public with, something that they may not know about the golf course that you really want them to, if they got nothing else out of the podcast by devoting their time to listening, that you would want them to know?
I think that if you haven't seen it yourself, and especially if you're a golfer in the area, I just encourage you to go check it out. It's gorgeous. And I'm obviously biased because I love it
just
so much.
Just a little bit, but it's okay to be.
I know, but it truly is one of the most unique properties that I've seen in North Georgia. It's a tremendous golf course. It's a fun course. It's a playable course. You're not going to lose a lot of golf balls, but it has plenty of challenge. But it is so unique with all of the rock feature that we have and the elevation change and our gorgeous new greens that it is worth a visit, and hopefully people, more and more people find it and love it as much as we do.
Yeah, and that's a great thing to leave people with. And with that, Elizabeth, just want to thank you for the great conversation and taking the time to share about the golf course, about the Chimneys with those that take their time to listen to the podcast, and just encourage you to keep doing what you're doing. And if you haven't seen the Chimneys, I encourage everyone to go out there, pay for 9 holes and just take the golf cart and ride around, because you're right. It is very picturesque, and get out there on a morning with the fog and all that. You can take some pretty good pictures. So with that, we'll go ahead and sign off, and we'll be back with more conversations highlighting people, places, and projects that are shaping Winder. I'm Jonathan Lynn, Winder City Administrator. Thank you for listening. Thanks for listening to Winder Works. We hope you enjoyed the show today. Stay informed by following the City of Winder on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. And make sure to visit www.cityofwinder.com to learn more about Winder, the City of Opportunity.